Hi, everybody. It's great to have you here. We're very excited to start with these webinars in Richmond. We are going to have webinars every Consejo Técnico Escolar. So if you're interested to join us, we would love to have you here. Whenever you connect to a new platform for the first time, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing or maybe not that comfortable at the beginning, but the more you join us, the more you will get familiarized with the tools and everything we do in here, right? So as I mentioned, we're going to have a session on socio-emotional learning. So I am going to get started with a simple question, all right? I have hidden the camera, don't worry. I am going to turn the camera from time to time, but um, I am going to turn the camera from time to time, but I'm not going to have it all the time on because it consumes some space from our information, all right? So let's get started by asking, how do you feel today? All right? I am going to unmute the microphone. So if you want to share with the rest of us how you feel today, you can tell us. Are you ready? So from all of these faces, and if there is a face that maybe describes you, but it's not here, feel free to tell us that. Tell us how you feel today. I think some people are happy because I can hear laughter. That's great.
Happy, happy, happy. We have no sound or we have something.
Blue.
Happy.
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 Blue.
Happy. Happy to be here.
Great. So most of you feel happy. I heard a few of you are blue. Um, but don't get blue. We are near Semana Santa holiday break, right? So hang on there. Um, so, um, why is it important to ask people how they feel at the beginning of a journey or a day? Well, most people can't identify their feelings, and that is an amazing thing. But some people don't know what makes them happy or what makes them sad, or if they feel sad, they don't know how to feel happy now. All right. So today we're going to learn how to help our students manage their emotions, to make responsible choices, etc. But I think that the session is going to be useful for us as well, right? So what is socio-emotional learning? Socio-emotional learning, you will also find it as CEL, is the process through which children acquire and effectively apply knowledge, attitude, and skills, all right? So it's not just that students know about emotions, but it's also important that students have the right attitudes, that they have the skills necessary. So something important, for example, is to understand and manage emotions. So it would be important that students understand why they feel frustrated, or why they feel angry, or why they are they are sad, not fat, sorry, sad, and that they can manage those emotions, right? Now, it's not the same that you suppress your emotions and to manage your emotions. It's quite a different thing, right? Also, that you set and achieve positive goals, that you feel and show empathy for others, that you can walk in someone else's shoes, right? That you can establish and maintain positive relationships. If one of our children are fighting all the time, they probably do not have positive relationships. So it's important to show them how they can do that, and also to make responsible decisions. So this is what we call socio-emotional learning. And this is something that is happening all around the world. It's not just something happening in Mexico. It's something that in many other countries has been quite important lately. So this is something important to take into account. we are going to learn about something called Cassell's wheel. All right. Wherever you have a section called handouts, if you click there, you will see that it says Cassell's wheel PDF. You can download this wheel. I included it here so you can have it. Feel free to download it, to print it, to use it. And if you need more information, there is a website called cassell.org, and in there you can find more information about this. But today, this is what we're going to study, right? So according to Cassell, there are five, we can call them dimensions of socio-emotional learning. So these are the things that we have to teach our students to do. We have to teach them to be self-aware, right? So self-awareness is one of them. We also have, let me see. So we have self-awareness, okay? Self-awareness, we're going to describe it in a minute, but it's one of the most important things that we have to understand. We have to be aware of who we are, how we feel, and then we have self-management. Self-management is, okay, so you know who you are, but what do you do now with that information, right? Then you have social awareness, which is also important, relationship skills, and finally, responsible decision making. So you probably have noticed that we also have different dimensions inside of this. Self-awareness and self-management are internal things, right? So these two things are internal. What does that mean? Well, it means that they depend on our students. They reflect on this part. Then we also have social awareness and relationship skills, which is on how students relate to other students. It's not just about themselves. And finally, the responsible decision making. And you can see that this is in a different color because this kind of involves both things: your inner person, yourself, and also your relationships with others. And we have that socio-emotional learning is going to impact not just the school, but you can also see that homes and communities are impacted by this. We also have, of course, schools and classrooms, right? So that's an important thing. Now, how do we tackle all of these situations? Well, in classrooms, if you go around the circle, you will see that we have self-emotional learning curriculum and instruction. So in your classroom, there are things that you can do to help your students become more competent in terms of social-emotional skills. Also, then we have schools. How do we work in schools in terms of preparing our students? Well, in schools we have school-wide practices and policies. So for example, in many schools we have a value of the month, and then you have to practice that value not just in your classroom but also in the school. It's important that you also think about which things related to social-emotional learning should be applied for the entire school. And finally, we also have homes and communities. I know what many of you are thinking, and it's probably that sometimes you work a lot on these aspects in school or in the classroom, but at home, students don't practice this that much. That is true. Sometimes that's the case. Now, the thing about this is that our students are supposed to practice this everywhere. So I will also share a few ideas with you on how we can help our students to continue practicing this, not just in school, but also at home, where, of course, sometimes we have the biggest problems, right? In school, we have this part that says family and community partnerships. So it's important that the entire community, the school, the family, everything gathers around this. Okay, so this is Cassell's circle. Now, could you please raise your hand if you see the handout that I included here? So this is the section. where it's documentos or it says handouts, here's where you can see the Cassell wheel PDF, right? So you just have to click on it and you will be able to download this handout that we prepared for you. This handout, by the way, wasn't created by Richmond. This is a handout that I took from a very nice website on socio-emotional learning that you will probably want to visit after we finish the session. And this is a very nice website where they give you lots of information on this topic. What they don't tell you in the website is how to make it more practical. So that's what we are going to focus on today. So here we are in our Cassell wheel, and we are going to explore a little bit more. So are you ready for some participation? Because it's going to be necessary for you to answer a few questions. I am going to send you a poll. And in this poll, you will have a question about, well, it's not a question, it's more of a definition that describes one of the competencies in self-emotional learning. And you have to choose the right answer. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to send you the first poll. The first poll will appear right about now. Can you see it? It says ability to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships with diverse individuals. What's that? Please choose the right answer, the one that you think is correct. Okay, I am going to close the poll in 1, 2, 3. It's closed. Okay, 78% of you voted. Now let's see the results, shall we? This is what you have voted, okay? Some 5% of you think it's self-awareness, 33% thinks it's social awareness, 57% of you thinks it's relationship skills, and 3% think it's responsible decision making, and 2% of you thinks it's self-management. So the right answer is relationship skills. So most of you were right. Right? Great. Are you ready for the next poll? Our next poll is about to be launched now. The ability to accurately recognize one's own emotions, thoughts, and values, and how they influence behavior. What is that? Okay, let's close the poll, and I'm going to share the results with you. Most of you, 77% of you thinks it's self-awareness. Some of you thinks it's social awareness, 1%. No one thinks it's relationship skills, of course. We have responsible decision making, 6%, and self-management, 17%. Well, the right answer is self-awareness. So most of you were right. Great. Let's go to the third poll, shall we? It's going to launch in a second. So in this question, you have the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions based on safety concerns and norms. What's that, in your opinion? People are voting. I will wait a few minutes or a few seconds. What is that? There is a debate in here. Some people think it's social awareness. Some people thinks no. Some people think it's responsible decision making, and a few of you are thinking it's self-management. So what is it? We will close the poll in a minute. Let's see what you think about this one. I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, there it is. So these are your answers. Most of you think it's responsible decision making. If you think it's responsible decision making, that's correct. That's the right answer. Great. Okay, let's go to the fourth. And you should be seeing it on your screen now. The ability to take up the perspective of others walking in someone else's shoes, including those from diverse backgrounds and cultures. What is that? Let's close the poll in 3, 2, 1. It's closed. Let's see the results. So, most of you think it's social awareness. And if you think it's social awareness, you are right. Disability is social awareness, right? And we have one more because remember, Cassell has 5 dimensions. So let's go to the last one. The last one should appear right now, and it says the ability to successfully regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations. So, what do you think this one is? Now, let me tell you, if you have a good memory, you know the answer just because of just by default, right? So I think that most of you have a good memory. Okay, great. I'll wait a few seconds more so more people vote. Okay. For the people that just joined the webinar, welcome. We are learning about Cassell's wheel. I will go back to the wheel in a few minutes. And there is a handout that you can check in the control panel. Okay, I'm going to close this poll. All right, and I'm going to share the results. So you have self-management, and that is the correct answer. Awesome. So let's come back to Mr. Cassell. All right. We have again this circle. And we were talking about the importance of this. We were saying that there are 2 dimensions that depend on our inner selves, right? And that would be self-awareness and self-management. So these dimensions do not depend on other people, they depend on ourselves. We also have social awareness and relationship skills. And this is how we connect with the world and how we connect with other people. And then we have one that is in touch with both parts, with your inner self and with your relationship with others. And that would be responsible decision making. And once again, there are some places where this can happen: classrooms, schools, homes, and communities, right? So this is what we have in terms of Cassell's wheel. Now we already have this little voting activity. Now let's see a little bit more detail about what we're talking about. We have relationship skills. So relationship skills is basically the ability to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships. And this is what we were checking in the poll. But also it's the ability to communicate clearly, cooperate with others, resist social pressure, negotiate constructively, and seek and offer help when needed. So, for example, has it ever happened to you that people think that you're angry, but you're not? But that's how people are perceiving you. That sometimes happens because of communication skills. Maybe that's not what you want to communicate, but maybe you're not aware of how you are perceived. It's important that we understand that, for example, or that we can cooperate with others. I'm sure that there is a student in your classroom who is really good at English, but he or she just doesn't like cooperating with other students. And we also have in our workplace that sometimes there's people who are brilliant, they are very intelligent, but it's very difficult to cooperate with them, right? Or to collaborate with them. So it's important that our students can develop all these skills because it's part of being a human being. So it's not just that students are, being sociable. This is a skill that is going to be useful for life. We also have self-awareness, and in self-awareness, we have that it's important that you recognize your own emotions. Sometimes it happens with children. They are moody and they don't understand why. And I'm sure it happens in your classroom. Someone feels sad, or someone feels angry, or someone just doesn't want to cooperate, and they don't even know why. Also, it's important to understand which are our own values and how they influence your behavior. Another important part is the ability to accurately assess your strengths and limitations, right? So, for example, I'm very sure that you have seen these singing competitions, and from time to time, there is a person competing in this singing competition, and they cannot sing, but at all, right? And can anyone remember the Ken Lee episode, or are you too young to remember that? Oh, please tell me you remember it, because if you don't remember it, I will be thinking that maybe you are a teenager joining us. But there was this situation where there was this girl who thought she spoke English and that she could sing very well, but she didn't. And what she was lacking was self awareness. So, self awareness is basically the ability to understand yourself, but also to know which are your strengths and which are your limitations. When you have limitations, it's also important that you are optimist about it, that you don't think, oh, there's nothing I can do right, I give up. I think it's important that we have a growth mindset and that our students have a growth mindset. Um, Today, I will show with you a few activities that actually help our students be a little bit more optimistic and to have this growth mindset, right? So we also have the responsible decision making part. This part is even more important when they are teenagers. Um, there are many texts about working with teenagers, and many others also about parenting. Oh, I'm very sorry. Um, some of about parenting teenagers. An important thing they say is you shouldn't have to control your child all the time. You should show them how to make decisions and then let them be free, right? So it's important that we show them how to make responsible decisions since they are young. So, for example, this skill is the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions, and this should be based on safety concerns and social norms. If you remember Cassell's wheel, you probably can remember that this is the one that was in yellow, right? This was the dimension, which is not just something about yourself or something about the others. It's something that connects both. Also, a realistic evaluation of consequences, right? And you should always considerate your well-being and the well-being of other people. So this is responsible decision making. This is, for example, when you teach children about healthy eating habits, for example, and then they can make a decision based on the information they got, and it should be responsible. And the more they grow, the more responsible they can become. So this is responsible decision making. And then we have social awareness. This one is quite important, especially if you are learning English. Why? Well, because when you are learning English, you're learning about other cultures. And it's really important that our students have this knowledge on how other cultures see the world. So, for example, I remember a lot one of my friends when she started working in the office. She's from the United States. When she started working in the office, people thought that she was very rude. And it was because in the United States, it's not common that people kiss each other to say hello. They usually just wave and say hi, morning. That's it, right? So that's what she would do every day in the office, and everyone was offended because Mexicans, we are jarritos de tlaquepaque, right? And so everyone was offended because she wouldn't say hi in the mornings. She wouldn't saludar as we usually say hello, as we greet each other. But it was just a cultural difference. So it's important that we take into account that when we are teaching a foreign language, our students should take this part quite seriously, right? So, social awareness is the ability to take the perspective of others, including those from diverse backgrounds and cultures, which means you should be you should be quite sensible and sensitive about these cultural differences and how people see the world differently. Also, the ability to understand social and ethical norms of behavior, that you recognize all of the support that your society gives you, and this means family, school, community resources, etc. So, coming back to our little Cassell's wheel, we have talked about all of these things except for one, right? We still haven't talked about self-management, which is the last one. And this one is very, very, very important. I think that many students don't know how to self-regulate the way they behave or they feel. So sometimes someone feels very angry, and what happens if you tell them calm down? Do they calm down usually? Probably your answer is no, right? When someone is very angry and you ask them to calm down, that's not really what's going to happen. Probably they won't calm down. So it's important that they learn how to calm down themselves, right? So it's the ability to regulate your emotions, your thoughts. That's an important one. Your behaviors in different situations, of course. And once again, this one is to manage and regulate, not to deny, right? Because sometimes the way in which we try to teach children how to self-regulate is to ignore their emotions or their feelings, and that's not the way. It's just learning how to regulate them and how to express them in a better way. Also, the ability to manage stress effectively, right? Controlling your impulses, motivating yourself towards your goals, etc. So these are the 5 dimensions of Cassell's wheel. And now that we know them, we're going to apply them. So the goal on this session is that we actually learn how to do some practical activities in class, so you can apply these with your students, right? So I am going to unblock the microphones. And if you would like to share something with the rest of the group, now the microphone is open. Okay. So is there anything someone would like to share about social emotional skills? Don't forget to tell us your name before you participate. So once again, all the activities that I am going to show you today are going to be in some of these categories. After I show you the activity, what we're going to do is to decide which of these dimensions we are working with, right? So the possible dimensions are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. These are the possibilities. So let's get moving. Let's see how we can help our kids to learn how to manage emotions at their own convenience. So these are some activities to try in class. Be ready to take some notes. Maybe there are some activities that you would like to try very soon with your students. And there are some activities that you can even try in English or Spanish classes. It's good for either one of them. All right, this is the first one. This one is called the self collage. And in this self collage, you have to create a picture description of yourself. So as you can see in here, I have examples of work from different ages, right? The one on the left is someone from preschool, and we can see that this little girl likes donuts and ice creams, right? And she has a dog, and you can see that she probably has a baby brother or sister. Then in the middle, we have a girl probably from primary school and things that she likes. So, for example, you can see that Brianna likes soccer and Kit Kats, right? She probably likes music. And then you have someone a little bit more complex on the right. And this person probably likes yoga and riding bikes and camping, right? And that's because of the things that they have included here. So, um, I am going to unmute your microphones so you can tell us which of the five Cassell's wheel dimensions you think we're working.
Self-awareness.
Do you agree with
So,
self-awareness?
yes, self-awareness.
I agree, that's right. So it's self-awareness. It's basically understanding which things you like, which things make you happy, which things inspire you, right? This is a very simple activity that they could do as a homework, for example. So you don't have to waste your entire class cutting, pasting, and coloring. So this could be a fun activity to do as a homework. And then on Monday or on the day that they bring this collage, they can talk about themselves. So this could be a very nice speaking activity. And they could talk about likes, dislikes, or how often they do the things they like, or what makes them happy, etc. Right? So this is a very simple activity called self-collage. I think that everyone has ever done a collage. When I was a little girl back in the 80s, 90s, this was all the rage, right? Doing collage, a collage activity was super cool in your classroom. Um, so hopefully it's still cool, right? Then you're going to be surprised about this, maybe. But one of the biggest issues with self-emotional, with social emotional learning is the lack of emotional vocabulary. And this is not just English, it's also in Spanish. So most people don't know how to call their emotions. So some people mistake, for example, they are frustrated, but they think they are angry, and it's not the same, right? Those are different feelings. So one of the most important things that we can do when we are working with self-emotional um, with the self-emotional, social emotional learning, is that we teach vocabulary that is going to be very useful for our students and that they can actually use, right? So I am going to show you three levels of language competence with vocabulary activities. This is the very first one, right? So it's probably very clear that this one is for young learners, right? So these are simple emotions, for example, happy, surprised, angry, excited, sad, loving, sad, bored. Oh, we have sad double. This is a little memory game, for example, and students have to match the emotions. These are cards that they can use. But for example, if you have these little flashcards or mini flashcards in class, you can use them every time you tell a story or every time your students listen to something or you listen to a song and then they react. Like, how do you feel or how did the character feel in this situation? And they can use these flashcards to actually help students express themselves, right? Now, something important is that we give names to those emotions, but also that they recognize when they feel them. Okay, for example, what makes you feel angry? What makes you feel sad? What makes you excited? Excited. So this is for younger learners, but we also have options for older students. This one is for someone a little bit older that can handle more emotions, right? There are new emotions here. For example, left out. That's an emotion that it's not that easy to understand, maybe for some students. Um, when can you feel left out? Can you give me an example of when you felt left out?
When they are not integrated into a game, for example, for a teamwork.
Right. When you are the last one picked. That's very sad, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Any other situation where you have felt left out?
When you are not taking into consideration in a family decision.
Right. That too, right? All right. Here's Marta Rosete says that even though we can even use emoticons or emojis to help our students identify emotions, right? That's true. I agree with you, Marta. I think students are really familiarized with emoticons, right? With emojis. So maybe we can use that one. Now, look, we also have proud. When have you, can you give me an example of when you felt proud? Here it is, proud.
When you achieve your goal or you feel happy about it.
Great. Okay, you achieve a goal, so you're proud.
When my students can't to to speak correctly or they can achieve the goal that I proposed to myself, I am proud of them.
Great, that's true. Um, how about, let's think about another emotion that it's not that easy. I love this one. I am a
Mm.
very cranky person. Cranky. What's that?
When I'm hungry.
Okay, you're hungry, you're cranky. What else?
Maybe there is something that you don't, you feel upset about something, but you don't know what exactly it is.
All right. Yeah. Um, quoting someone from Guadalajara. I have lots of friends in Guadalajara. Cuando te sientes bien, sabe cómo. Right? Um, if there's anyone from Guadalajara, you understand me. So these, as you can see, are simple vocabulary activities. So these vocabulary activities are useful for us English teachers, of course, but at the same time, they are important for our students to express how they feel. Once again, you will be surprised about how many people, adult people, only know happy, angry, sad, and that's it, right? So it's important that our students' vocabulary grow, that they can express complex emotions. So this one was for preschool. Then we have this one for older students, and this I loved these characters because they are funny, but they express the feelings quite well, right? And then we have another activity which is a little bit more advanced. I think this one is super cool because it even shows you like levels of happiness, right? For example, if you are happy but like low happy, you can say you're pleased, right? Or something is pleasant. If you're medium happy, you're satisfied, or maybe you are glowing. And if you are super uber happy, then you can say, I am ecstatic, right? Or overjoyed. So which students would you use this chart with? Like how old?
High school,
Maybe high
junior
school?
high, junior high.
Right? Do you think students from 6th grade or 5th grade could also use this one?
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
grade 5, 6.
Yes, some of them,
That's
yes.
right. And I think this would be useful even for adults, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you are trying to be fancy with your English, and instead of saying I am afraid, you say I am petrified, right? Or I'm scared stiff. And the idea, once again, is that our students have enough vocabulary to express how they feel. So this is the thing. How can you say how you feel if you don't have the vocabulary to do so? And as English teachers, this is going to be super useful for us, but also it's important for Spanish teachers. Spanish teachers should also try to teach some vocabulary to students that it's going to be helping them describe how they feel. So let's move on, and then we have an emotions wheel. And the idea of this emotions wheel is that our students make pictures or write what makes them feel these things. Now, of course, you can change the feelings, right? It's not necessary that you have. Instead of happy, for example, could be ecstatic. Or instead of proud, it could be maybe another one like left out. Or instead of sad, you write hurt, etc. So the idea in here is that your students can create this emotions wheel, so they start identifying how they feel and what makes them feel like that. Now, thinking about Cassell's wheel, which are the skills that we are practicing here? Recognizing how you feel and what makes you feel like that. What is that? I heard someone whispering self-awareness. That's right. You're right, self-awareness. But there is another extra in here, because we are learning which are the things that make you feel like this. So it's not just self-awareness, but also self-management.
Maybe social or self-management.
Yeah, I would say it's more a little bit self-management, right? Because if I know that something makes me feel happy and I feel sad, then maybe I can try something that makes me happy. For example,
Mm.
let's say that I feel blue and I don't know why. I feel sad. And then in my emotions wheel, I see that walking in the park makes me happy, or riding a bike makes me happy. Or
Mm.
maybe talking to a friend makes me happy. So now I know that I feel sad and I don't want to feel sad anymore. So I know what to do. So it makes me happy,
Mm.
right? Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so this is an emotions wheel. This is a simple one, but this can be as complex as you want. If you are working with preschool or younger learners who do not know how to write, they can draw pictures, right? Or they can they can use stickers, or they can use something that they cut from a magazine. And the idea is that they can describe what makes them feel this way. So, for example, what makes you feel angry? Hello.
When I'm hungry.
Okay, that makes you feel angry. What else?
When it's too hot, the weather is
All
too
right.
hot.
Ah, that's true. That makes me angry too. What else makes you
Injustice.
angry? Injustice,
Injustice.
okay.
When my house is
Disrespect.
filthy.
Sorry, someone mentioned something about a house. Can you repeat that?
Yes, it was me. When my house is filthy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that makes me angry, especially when I wasn't the one who made
Oh
it
my
filthy,
goodness.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. How about something that makes you feel worried?
Security.
Okay.
Being
So,
late,
all right. Yes. Anything else that makes you feel worried?
not having
Maybe
enough money.
All
When
right.
I'm running out of money.
That's true. At the end of the quincena, that's a worrying time. You know when I feel very worried, and I don't know if you share this. I don't know why, but I feel worried on Sundays, on Sunday night. It doesn't matter what I'm
Because
doing.
it's almost
Yes, it's Sunday nights, and it's like,
Monday.
yeah,
We're
that's
coming back to work after holidays.
okay. Yes, that's true. We are going to leave that very soon, right? Okay, so here's another activity. I am going to show you some pictures, and you have to tell me how the people in the picture are feeling and why you think they are feeling that way. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Frustrated, sad,
Worried.
worried.
Desperate.
Okay. Now,
Worry.
Confused.
now here comes the second question. Why is she feeling like that? If you saw the movie, you can tell us why she feels like that.
Because people around her doesn't understand and don't understand her.
Okay.
I agree with her.
All
Because
right.
things are not according to her expectations.
Okay. Right.
You can't catch the rabbit.
Sorry, come again?
Can't catch the rabbit.
Okay. How about this one?
Oh, so sad.
Sad, right? Does
Yes.
anyone know why Bart Simpson was sad in this particular episode?
Maybe Somero and he's not working. Um,
Sorry.
I
So,
think
I guess it was for a girl he met, and then it was like his crush, something like that.
okay, so maybe his heart is broken. How
maybe
about,
he wants to go outside and his mother said, "No, you please stay at home."
So
Yummy.
how about this little koala bear?
hungry.
He's hungry.
Surprised, maybe.
hungry and surprised.
Yeah, a little bit surprised, right?
He looks a little intrigued.
Maybe intrigued. So,
Why that?
a good activity to try with our students, for example, is to show them these pictures and then tell them, tell us a story about this picture
Uh-huh.
and why they are feeling like this, right? So it could be something funny like this one, right? Which is a funny koala bear with this expression. How about this? How is she feeling?
Happy.
She's happy and proud.
Proud, happy.
Proud of herself, of her dress.
Elated.
Happy.
Proud.
All right. Now look at here. This is a story, right?
Surprise.
So they are surprised, right? It says they found the culprit upstairs. My bed, wailed Baby Bear. It's gone. Goldilocks opened her eyes. And above her stood three bears. So maybe we're telling this story where we're actually not talking about how the bears feel, right? In the story, you can say that it's not being described how the bears feel, but we can ask our students how they feel. right? So when they're listening to a story or they watch a movie, it's important that you ask them how they feel and how they imagine the characters were feeling and why the characters were feeling like that. Okay, so whenever you're telling a story, you can actually share this with your students. How about this picture? Don't forget to unmute your microphone before participating.
Amazed.
They are amazed,
Excited?
someone mentioned.
Excited, I think.
Okay. And why? Remember that here we are not just describing how they feel, but we're trying to.
Well,
Surprised.
yes, excited because they get their goal. That oh, at the same time, I think surprises because they are looking what happened in front of their eyes.
Right. I agree. Um, so it happens a lot when you're in science class and something that was supposed to happen happens, right? It's very sad when you are the team that didn't get a reaction in their experiment. Um,
Yeah.
so that could make you feel left out, right? Maybe if your
Yeah.
experiment didn't work. So what are we practicing here? It's not just that they are recognizing what emotion that is, but they are trying to understand what is causing that emotion. So what are we doing here? What of the 5 dimensions are we practicing?
Management.
Maybe it could be a little bit of self-management. What else?
Mm,
What happens when you recognize what someone else is feeling and you try to understand why they feel that way?
Maybe
empathy.
social
Empathy.
awareness.
Right, social awareness. Someone said empathy. That's right.
Hmm.
Indeed.
This is an important thing as well, right? It's important when our students try to understand someone else, why they feel that way, because it's not just that you are recognizing an emotion, but you're also trying to understand where that emotion is coming from. So that's right. We are talking about social awareness and particularly empathy, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so here's a little tip. Whenever you try this activity, this particular activity of recognizing the emotion, the suggestion is that you try it in a circle time. Try to do it in a circle whenever possible. I know that in some classrooms that's impossible, but whenever possible, try it. And have students tell you at least the name of each emotion once, right? Um, Now, if you don't have pictures, that's okay. You can do some acting. You can ask students to try to act the emotion. And this one is very funny, because sometimes children are trying to portray an emotion, but their classmates read another emotion. So that's also important so students are aware of how well they are communicating. Um, um, Also, it's very important that most of the children can participate doing this activity, right? This activity is good for little learners, for young learners, but it's also a very nice activity for older learners, for teenagers, for example. And you can even make it more challenging by giving them um, if you remember that little complex, sorry, don't get marinated. If you get this little if you give this little list to your students, and they have to portray these emotions, you add a lot of challenge, right? So for example, let's say that you're working with a group of teenagers and someone has to choose, for example, hurt, and they have to act hurt. That would be more challenging, right? Because maybe someone would read a different emotion. So we can make this activity interesting, and we can add levels of challenge by changing little things. It's not necessary that we change the entire thing. So a few things are different. Now, this is another little activity for self-management, and this is called the things that bug me, right? So what students have to do is to create this little bug. You can find the template online, and they have to write things that bug them, right? So if this was your bug, what would you write underneath those little spots? Things that bug you. Can you think of something that bugs you?
Yes, it bugs me when my neighbor takes my place in the parking lot, so I cannot park my car there. It really bugs me.
Okay.
When students don't do the homework.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
When people
What else?
take garbage out and it's not time.
Okay. So it's sitting there the entire day, right? What else bugs you?
When my dogs make a mess when I
Okay.
arrive home.
All right. Okay, I agree.
Traffic in Mexico City.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? Um, Now, why is it important to recognize the things that bug you?
Because then you can solve the situation and you can make a decision. Contact your emotions.
That's right. I agree. What else? What if you are feeling cranky, but you don't know why? It's usually because something is bugging you, isn't it? And maybe you can't really tell what is that thing bugging you. So it is very important that we are aware of the things that make us feel certain ways. So for example, in this particular case, this little bug can help our students to self-regulate a little bit, right?
Writing helps. Mhm.
Writing helps, that's true. And once again, if you are working with very young learners, you can actually ask them to draw something that represents what bugs them, right? So for example, when I was a little girl, something that bugged me very much was when people would squeeze my cheeks, right? You know that sometimes people squeeze your cheeks and say, "Ay, qué linda niña." I hated that. That bugged me very much. So those are the things that probably your students are going to draw underneath their box, right? Now, here we have another one. This one is used by psychologists a lot because drawing is a great way for children to express how they feel. So I really love this activity for reading comprehension or listening comprehension. It goes beyond understanding the language. It's about how it makes you feel. So, for example, you ask your students to watch a movie or to listen to a story, and then they have to make a picture or make a drawing of how it made them feel, right? Now, here I have a little example of a little child that draw this picture, and this child was very sad, and this is how the child explained why she felt sad. So what can you interpret? You probably cannot see it, but on this side, there is a little house. So this is a house. This is another house. What do you
It's a
think?
divorce, maybe.
Yes, I agree.
It's a divorce. That's right. So, for instance, this child was very, very young to understand,
It's divided. We're in
right?
the middle of the situation.
It is divided, and there are two houses, right? That must
Uh-huh.
be
Yes.
complicated. So now I am not saying that we get to this level of complexity with our students because
We can.
because maybe it's not psychoanalysis what we should do with our students, right? But I think this shows you how a drawing can actually help you express something very, very complex. So it can help a lot for our students to draw how they feel. Whenever they can't find the words, they can probably find the pictures that go with it. So draw and talk is a good activity to try. As I mentioned, I particularly like this activity whenever there are stories or movies or things that our students are doing. And this is a good way for them to respond. And again, if your students have the linguistic competence to do so, they can actually talk about it. They can talk about the picture. Now, we also have cooperation skills. Cooperation skills, for example, are activities that are going to help our students to get along with other, right? So this one is going to tackle relationship skills, social awareness, responsible decision making, and self-management. Sorry about the Spanish up there. So these are some examples of activities that they could try, right? So for example, you ask them to work in a group and they have to write a word using the first letters, or if you want to make it more challenging, the first two letters of everyone's name. So let's try it, okay? I'm going to unmute your microphones and you are going to share with us a word with the first two letters of your name. Ready? Don't forget to unmute your microphone.
Become.
More words with the first two letters of your name.
Monday.
Cranky.
Mango.
Visit.
Mandala.
Okay,
Um,
great. So there are other activities they can try. So for example, find out something that each member of the team is good at, or three things. You can also say, find something that everyone in your group has in common, or things. You ask them to create a team. In here it says a soccer team, but it could be any team, and they have to think about the name of the team and the logo and the design of the t-shirt, etc. Right? More activities that they could do with other students. It's very important that when you ask them to work in groups, you give them clear tasks, that you tell them, you give them clear ideas of what the objective is. And also it's important for students to, it's important for other students to, oh, sorry. It's important for students to know what their purpose in the team is, right? Like, for example, if they are supposed to be taking notes, if they are supposed to produce something, if they are going to share it orally, etc. Now, I am going to skip these facts of or assumptions activity, and I will come back later. But this is a very nice activity that you can try in your class as well, and it's called Sprinkle Kindness. So your students have to create giant donuts, right? The idea is that they create a donut, and the sprinkles are nice things that they can do for other people in the classroom. So what would you choose for your sprinkles? Again, the sprinkles are nice things that you can do for other people in the classroom.
Listening.
Okay,
mm,
listening.
explain a difficult topic.
All right, maybe helping them understand something.
Help them with an assignment.
Integrating.
Okay,
Use
I
a new
think,
vocabulary.
all right. I think someone is participating, but you're too far away from the microphone and I cannot hear you.
Respect them.
Okay, respect them. Good. Now, you can also do a sprinkle kindness donut for home, like nice things that you could do for your mom and dad or your siblings, right? So, for example, some of the children wrote, helping my mom washing the dishes or looking after the dog, or, for example, telling my teacher that she looks pretty today, etc., right? So those are the little sprinkles of kindness. And this is a very nice activity you can try with your students. They are supposed to make this huge donut and decorate it with sprinkles of kind ideas to practice around. Going on the same path, this is another possibility. This is an activity that you can try with your students, trying to be nice with their classmates, right? So, for example, in here, say something good to each student and then ask one by one to do the same with their classmates. So, for example, you create a circle time activity and you tell the child next to you, you have a very beautiful pair of glasses. They look amazing, right? And then this child has to say something nice to the person next to them, and then that person to the other person next to them. How do you think they will feel by the end of this activity?
They will feel great,
Confident.
accepted.
Fantastic.
Motivated.
Great. Hmm.
So whenever you notice that your students are not feeling that well, if you think they are a little bit demotivated, etc., you can do this little circle activity and you can ask them to say nice things to each other. This is also going to help with team building, right? It's important that our students trust each other so we can have better results or better activities. Also, let me see, I think that some people made a few contributions in the chat. No, I think no. But the thing again is that this little activity is very simple. It could be even an icebreaker or the activity before you leave on a Friday, and then everyone can leave with a huge smile, right? And let's finish the session by talking about self-management. I am going to share with you a story that is called The Big Bad Mood. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The Big Bad Mood by Tom Jameson and Olga Demidova. George was having one of those days. The sort of day when George shouts, "I will not play nicely." When he stomps, "I will not share my toys." And when he screams, "I won't, I can't, I don't want to, no!" "There's a big bad mood hanging around you today," sighed George's mum. George glanced around. There wasn't a big bad mood anywhere near him, which meant it had to be somewhere else. George looked under his bed. No. At the back of the toy cupboard. No. At the bottom of the garden. No. But he couldn't find the big bad mood, and that made George feel rather big, bad, and moody. So he stomped and stomped until he couldn't stomp any more. And then suddenly, the big bad mood was standing right in front of him. He was a curious fellow, rough like sandpaper and smelling of socks which really needed changing. "I'm the big bad mood. It's my job to make everyone big, bad and moody, and you can help me." So the big bad mood grabbed George's hand and off they went to create mischief. First, the big bad mood showed him how to make the world-famous big bad mood sandwich. Special mayonnaise made from the squiggly spiders and the slimiest worms, pickles, cheese, onions, olives, ham, mustard, and a sprinkle of shaved caterpillar legs. Ugh. Then they dressed up Mrs. McTavish's 17 slobbery dogs in her very best clothes and hats, which put Mrs. McTavish in a big bad mood. And her dogs weren't happy either. After that, George and the big bad mood swapped all the park benches with trampolines, which made the old ladies jump. They even filled the local swimming pool with jelly and custard, which made everyone not just big, bad and moody, but a tiny bit delicious as well. George and the big bad mood stomped and shouted until they could stomp and shout no more. Well, maybe just a teensy bit more. "Brilliant!" yelled the big bad mood. "We should do this forever and ever." But George was starting to think that being big, bad and moody all the time wasn't fun. It was silly and noisy and very tiring. But worst of all, it was making his friends unhappy. Did he want to do this forever? "No thanks," squeaked George. "No thanks? Why not?" Because no one will play with me," said George. "Where I come from, no one bothers with friends." "But having friends is brilliant," said George. "No, it's not!" And with that, the big bad mood stomped off. But George didn't follow him. Instead, he cleaned his room from top to bottom. He even found his favourite rocket he thought he'd lost forever. And he said, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." And everyone played happily all afternoon. Now, George mostly has what his mum calls his not too bad at all days. Well done. Here. Whee! But every now and again, when a very special friend visits, George enjoys a big, bad, magnificently moody night.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you can. Can you?
Yes, yes, yes.
I think we can have this video played with young kids, and they will be fascinated about this story. But apart of that, I think they will think about uh, how they feel themselves and how they are making feel others, which is the most important thing.
All right. Thank you, Eduardo. Can we listen to Cristina Romero? You are unmuted.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I think, well, I work with elementary and preschool students, so when they want to give up, maybe it is still useful to read them the book and and tell them that they don't have to give up, then they can do everything they want.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move on. This is a self-management story that tells how a child learns how it is not so such a good idea to be in a bad mood all the time, right? So he learns kind of to self-regulate. So these are self-management activities. This is a very simple breathing activity, and you are supposed to have this infinite sign, and students have to follow it with their finger, and they have to breathe in and then breathe out, but as they touch it, right? So if it's possible for you and you are near the screen, try following the infinite signal with your finger. If it's not possible, try to picture the symbol and try to follow it with your finger and breathe, right? So whenever you are on the left side, you breathe in, and when you are on the right side, you breathe out. This is a very simple activity that can teach students how to breathe so they can calm down. Also, we can do one of these little flowers, and this is called the positive self-talk flower. And in here, students have to write messages that are positive for them. So whenever they are not feeling okay, whenever they are feeling down, they can actually open the flower and read some nice messages, right? So today I am a leader. I can control my own happiness. I believe in myself and my abilities. For these, our students are free to write whatever they want, right? Another activity that is similar, it's this one. In here, they create this kind of key ring where they write messages that are positive for them. And also, they use this one whenever they feel when they are not confident, when they are feeling blue, when they are feeling demotivated. So this is one that they can use. And we also have an emotions control, right? So the idea is that they create a little remote control for their emotions, and they decide how to use it a little bit like this, right? So for example, in this sad phase, they have to say, whenever I feel sad, and if you click on this button, well, you wouldn't click on the button, you would lift the button. There would be a message on what you would do when you feel sad, right? Also, when you feel angry, what you would do, etc. Or you can do something like this, an emotions wheel, and then you have an emotion and something that you can do to manage that emotion. And well, so these are some ideas of things that you can write in your remote control, right? I take a deep breath when I'm angry. I close my eyes and count to 10 if I feel frustrated, etc., etc. And finally, we have also these activities. These would be activities for older learners, where we show them to find negative emotions or negative thoughts. And the idea is that they create, for example, in this worksheet, they write negative emotions that they could have, and then how they can attack those emotions. For example, I don't have my friends here. No one is going to like me. This is a child that went to a new school, right? So how can he attack that? How can he attack that bad emotion? Or my friends at my old school are having fun without me, and then how he can attack that bad thought. And we also have, for example, this one. In this one, they have a collection of thoughts, and then they have to classify them and decide which ones are negative, which ones are just right, etc. And again, the idea is that they challenge negative thinking, but but mainly that they can recognize negative thinking, right? This is another one. We give them situations and we ask them what they would do, right? Like, you thought you were going to do well on a math test, but when you get it back, you see you failed. What do you do? And they have to tell us how they felt, if what they did, etc. And this has to do with students learning how to manage themselves, right? And finally, for the more advanced learners, we have journaling. And these journaling activities, our students are going to register how they felt, right? And they will think about their strengths and the challenges of the day. This is a more advanced activity, And as a suggestion, this is an activity that if your students are not very advanced in English, can be done in Spanish, because the important thing here is that they think about how they felt. Now, even if they write in Spanish, make them think about English class. For example, what are your strengths in English class and what are the challenges? And maybe your students are going to write, I am really good at grammar, but I am not very good at listening, and that makes me feel frustrated, etc. Right? So this is why it's so important to be familiarized with Cassell's wheel. Don't forget that we are supposed to be working on these 5 dimensions. We have self-management, self-awareness, which are inner control things. Then we have social awareness and relationship skills to learn how to interact with other people. And finally, responsible decision making. So we have run out of time. Thank you very much for connecting to our first webinar. Again, we're having webinars every Consejo Técnico Escolar, so hope to see you next time. There is a homework though. This is your homework for Vacaciones de Semana Santa, okay? Create a self-care plan. So in this self-care plan, you're going to write things that you're going to do during the holidays for your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and your emotional well-being. All right? So please do your homework. I am not going to check it, but I'm sure that you're going to enjoy it. And it was a real pleasure working with you today. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar. If you have any questions or you would like to contact me, you can see my contact information on the screen now. So thank you very much for
Thank
joining us.
you.
Thank you to you.
Thanks a lot.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
It was pretty nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, teachers. Bye.
Nice day. Bye.
Gracias por todo.
Bye.
No.